The European Union President Ursula von der Leyen has said that she hopes to avoid a trade war with the United States. But Brussels has a strong plan to respond to any tariffs that are imposed by Washington. This statement comes on the eve of America's tariff implementation on the 2nd of April. According to the European Union chief, the bloc holds a lot of cards that can be leveraged to negotiate and, if needed, push back against Trump's plan to impose some sweeping reciprocal tariffs on all trading partners.
Our objective is a negotiated solution. But of course, if need be, we will protect our interests, our people and our companies. And I want to be very clear on the aim of our response. We think that this confrontation is in no one's interest. The flow of goods and services between us, the United States and Europe, is nearly balanced. Of course, we are willing to work on the trade balance of goods as well as on the trade balance of services. This is the largest and most prosperous trade relation worldwide. We would all be better off if we could find a constructive solution. At the same time, it also has to be clear. Europe has not started this confrontation. We do not necessarily want to retaliate. But if it is necessary, we have a strong plan to retaliate and we will use it.
Now, all this comes after the American President Donald Trump said that he would be very kind to trading partners when he unveils further tariffs this week. Now, Trump said that the details of his reciprocal tariffs could be revealed pretty soon.
We are going to be very nice by comparison to what they were. The numbers will be lower than what they've been charging us, and in some cases maybe substantially lower, but we sort of have a world obligation perhaps. But we're going to be very nice. Relatively speaking, we're going to be very kind.
Now, the Wall Street Journal reported on Sunday that advisors have considered imposing global tariffs of up to 20% to hit almost all U.S. trading partners. Now, Donald Trump also said that he was not concerned that the new tariffs could push some of the United States' closest allies to work with China. He's also made a pretty big claim about India, saying that he has heard that India is likely to drop tariffs substantially. New Delhi has made no official statement on dropping tariff rates, though.
I think I heard that India just a little while ago is going to be dropping its tariffs very substantially. And I said, why didn't somebody do this a long time ago?
Now, the American president insists that reciprocal action is needed because the world's biggest economy is being ripped off by every country in the world. Now, Trump, who has promised a liberation day for the United States on the 2nd of April, used a new term for his planned tariffs.
I think this is going to be an amazing, I call it a lot of different names, but it's really, in a sense, it's a rebirth of a country because how we could have afforded to do what we did. We help everybody and they don't help us.
The market nervousness is intensified after Trump said on Sunday that his tariffs would include all countries. Earlier, the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt had told reporters that the goal on Wednesday would be to announce country-based tariffs, although Trump remains committed to imposing separate sector-specific charges. All right, now to give us more details in terms of how all this is, of course, playing out in Brussels, we joined this broadcast by our correspondent Stuart Smith. Stuart, this is a pretty big deal. Donald Trump has said that he'll be imposing tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, as he puts it. Ursula von der Leyen made it pretty clear that Europe does not want a trade war, but it has the leverage that it needs to push back against these tariffs by Donald Trump. What leverages could come into play here?
The first thing the EU is doing is trying to stress to Washington that any trade war that comes from this tariff increase will ultimately hurt American consumers, will also make the price of goods like groceries and medicines more expensive in the United States and potentially affect industry there, costing jobs. But if the EU says that does not stop these tariffs, and it looks like by every measure they are going ahead as expected on Wednesday, then there is the opportunity for dialogue, but also these strong plans. Now, we've seen what happened last time Donald Trump was president of the United States and when he imposed tariffs on the EU. The EU responded in a tit-for-tat move. It didn't escalate, but it established tariffs against the United States to the same value, and that's initially what the plan will be for Wednesday, which will be to sanction $28 billion, to charge extra tariffs on $28 billion of goods going to the United States as a first step. Then we will see, depending on the detail of what the US is indeed doing after Donald Trump makes a speech on Wednesday, as to what happens after that. The EU wants to keep its cards close to its chest before implementing any measures that could be seen as an escalation, if indeed Donald Trump is actually willing to negotiate. What that could look like is not just tariffs on industry like alcohol, for example, or motorcycles, as has been the case in the past, but also the American tech sector, which is massive for the United States in Europe, and also potentially pharmaceutical companies too. That would be a big deal, but as Ursula von der Leyen, the EU chief, says, she doesn't want to get to that point. And indeed, it would be very controversial within Europe itself. Remember, 27 countries in the EU, many of them with incredibly important sectors, like for Ireland, pharmaceuticals, or for France, wine. And if Donald Trump imposes reciprocal tariffs on those as this trade war escalates, there'll be hundreds of thousands of people potentially losing their jobs across the European bloc, with the US being the EU's main export partner.
Interesting. We'll have to see as to how all this plays out. Thank you very much indeed, Stuart Smith, for joining us with those details there. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.